So here's the system rules here from Rango. All right, so rule number one, so we're looking for an inside bar. And yeah, an inside bar does have a standard definition, right? So the high has a lower price than the previous bar high, and the bar's low has a higher low price than the previous bar's low, right? Well, actually, I should correct that. An inside bar doesn't actually, it does kind of have a generalized standard definition, but some people consider the wicks included, as part of the inside bar, but some people only look at the body or have a specific requirement for the body for an inside bar. But for this, let's see here. All right, so I don't see any specific criteria of an inside bar. So it looks like we're just comparing the high price, to the previous bar high price, and we're comparing the low price to the previous bar's low price to find an inside bar. So that's pretty straightforward there. All right, and so one thing I don't have, Ranga, is this for a long signal? Is this the description for a long signal? So Ranga says yes. Okay, yeah, so this is for a long signal. All right, let's get that in there. All right, so back to this here. Okay, so next, so after the inside bar, right, the third or fourth bar low. So, all right, so the next two bars need to make a low below the first bar, the engulfing bar, right? So the first bar would be the engulfing bar. So, okay. And then the fifth bar needs to be this guy. And yeah, the fifth bar needs to be one of these bar types here. All right, so that's the question. So let's start building here. All right, so let's get BloodHound open. All right, so rule number one, let's define a inside bar. So that's going to be a couple of comparison solvers. So yeah, to state this again, right, we're comparing, so when an inside bar occurs, we're comparing the high of that bar to the previous bar's high, right? And we want a lower high. And we're comparing the low to the previous bar's low, and we want a higher low. So that is a couple of comparison solvers. Actually, I think we can do that now with one comparison solver. Yeah, so with BloodHound 2.0, yeah, I believe we can do that all with one comparison solver. Let's grab a comparison solver here. Let's connect it up. And we'll call this an inside bar. All right, so we're comparing, right, price data, right, the bar's price data. So input A, we're going to change the type. We're going to change it from indicator to price. And input B, we're going to do the same thing. We want to change the input type to price. Right? And so what I'm going to do, let's see here. So for long, I'm going to look at the high price for the long. And for the short output, I'm going to look at the low price. And we're going to do the same thing down here for input B. All right, high price and low price. So input A is going to be the high and low prices of the bar, of the current bar. And input B is going to be the previous bar back, right? Input B is going to be looking at basically what would be the engulfing bar. So that means that our look back period needs to be set to 2 because we want to look back one extra bar. Right? So, all right, so now let's open up the comparison settings here, or in other words, the rules window. There we go. All right, so we have the new rules window open here. And so for high A needs to be less. So remember, A is the inside bar, and input B is going to be the engulfing bar. All right, so the inside bar's high needs to be less or lower than input B, which is the engulfing bar. Right, and so for the low A, input A needs to be greater, which is already set to greater, than the low of B. Remember, the low of B is the previous bar. And if I hit apply, so what we're looking for is when we get a long and a short at the same time. I'm wondering if I got those. Oh, did I not? Oh, sorry. I got those backwards. There we go. I didn't finish changing the short output. There we go. All right, so let's take a look at this. All right. So basically what we kind of defined is when there's an engulfing bar, right, there's no output. But when there's a inside bar, let's see, right there, right, that's an inside bar, we get a long and a short together. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for all the bars that have a long and short output together, right? Now, an inside bar doesn't mean the market's is going higher. It doesn't mean the market's going lower. It's just an inside bar, right? So that's why typically with an inside bar, you want to generate a long and a short at the same time, because an inside bar is non-directional, right? So whenever you're creating a condition, right? So an inside bar is a condition. Whenever you're creating a non-directional condition, almost always you'll want a long and a short output at the same time because it's non-directional, right? And basically the other conditions here will then decide whether the non-directional condition ends up being a long or a short signal, right? So basically rule number 2 and rule number 3 will define this as being long. So all right, so we now need to filter out the long and short bars only. So we need to strip out this long output and we need to remove the short output onlys, right? So to do that, let's see here. Yeah, we're going to need a function node. So let's go to the function nodes here. And just to be clear, I am right-clicking on my chart. You know, if you want to grab a function node, we could go to the logic menu. And here's your function nodes right here, your logic nodes, you know, and your solvers. So if you like using a menu system, it's all up there, but I like to right click, it's a little bit quicker. Okay, and what we want is a long short modifier, right? That's the function node we want. And with this, we're going to change the mode to product, right? Product is another term for multiplication, right? That's a mathematical term for multiplication. And so what it does is it multiplies the long output by the short output. And so obviously when we have those long only outputs, and if you multiply that by the short output, which was 0, anything times 0 is 0, right? So that's how we get rid of the long only and the short only. That's how you get rid of it, because you're multiplying it by the other side, which is 0. And so here we go. So here's the inside bars, right? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Yeah. And we could call this also, actually, I always like to name it what the mode is, so that way I can see what mode this function, this long short modifier is in. So all right, so there we go. Rule number 1 done. So next, rule number 2. So we need to check bar 3 or 4 and make sure that, yeah, we have a low lower than the first bar. All right. All right, so that didn't do it. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. There. So our fourth bar here, right? So here's the inside bar. That's the third bar. And then that's the fourth bar. Made a lower low than the engulfing bar. So yeah, just to be clear, the first bar would be the engulfing bar. And we have some other cases over here too. All right, so the next step is, once again, to do some comparisons, right? So we would be comparing the low of the next bar, right, to the low of 2 bars back, right? 2 bars back. And then the same thing over here. We compare, so for the fourth bar, we compare the low also to the low, this time going 3 bars back. All right, so let's add another comparison solver here. And once again, both of our inputs, we're working with bar prices. So we're going to set the type to price. There we go. And let's see here. Yeah, so for a long signal, we're looking at the low price. So for the opposite, situation, we convert the low to the high price. So for a short signal, we'd be looking at the high price. All right, so let's set these up. All right, so basically we defined the third bar definition here. I'm going to shrink that over a little bit. All right, I need to mark my inside bars here. There. All right, so let me take a look at the third bar again here. And so let's just see what we have right now. So yeah, so this bar here, I guess, yeah, so we want a long on that bar, and then eventually we'll work around and get a long on this bar here. But for now, let's see, we want a long on that bar and on that bar. All right. Yeah, so where the green arrows are, that's the third bar, right? So you can see I marked, the inside bar here with the dots. So the bar after is the third bar. And so we're expecting a long signal there. So, all right. So what we need to do is go inside the comparison settings and set this up correctly, right? So for a long output, the low A, so remember input A is going to be the third bar or the current bar, and B is going to be the engulfing bar. So that low, we need a lower low, like so. Right. And there we have it. So, right, where the arrow is, we do have a long output. And where the second arrow is, we also have a long output. So now obviously, you know, as the low prices kind of go lower, we're going to get a bunch of other long outputs as well. Right. But once we oh, yeah, okay, so for the long output, I do need to reverse that as well. Oh, sorry. I'm reversing the wrong one. There we go. Okay, there you go. That looks a little cleaner now. Right. So again, you know, the ability to see your results instantly is basically kind of like the main beauty of BloodHound here. You know, so that way you don't have to work all this stuff out in your head, you know, ahead of time. You can just kind of take your time and kind of slowly set things up, you know, and see the results until you get the right results. So there we go. So the lows here are moving lower, right? Moving lower, and so we're getting a long output here. And then we can see over here, right, these highs are kind of moving higher, and so we're getting a short output, right? Now, of course, what we're seeing, the output we're seeing now is not correlated in any way to the inside bar, right? This is just a single solver, and we haven't connected it to the inside bar logic yet, right? So now we can start connecting things up, right? So what I'm going to do is I need another function node here, and I'm going to grab a look back. Or let's see, actually, no, what I'm going to grab, I'm going to grab a signal extender. You know, I guess I could do the same thing with the look back, but I'm going to grab a signal extender instead, and we want to extend the inside bar, right? So we're taking, right, the signal for the inside bar and we're extending it, right? So here we go. So we have an inside bar here, and then we take this long short and extend it forward 2 bars, right? We're extending it to the third bar and the fourth bar, right? So that way we can then add the third bar and the fourth bar, right? Combine it with the inside bar, right? So now with that, we can now grab a AND node, connect that in, right? And so now we're slowly starting to, you know, piece this together and see some, you know, logical results here, right? So, all right, so this is for the third bar, and so we also need basically the same solver, but for the fourth bar. So what I'm going to do is copy that and then paste it there, set that up, and then we'll set this up for the fourth bar. And the only difference between the third bar and the fourth bar is we just, right, on input B, we just had to look back an extra bar, right? Because the fourth bar, right, that's our inside bar there. So that's the third. This is the fourth bar. So on the fourth bar, we're looking back one. Actually, this is bar 1. So we're looking back 2, 3, and 4. Right? So our look back period is set to 4 so that we can compare the low of the fourth bar back to the engulfing bar, right? Which has a look back period of 4. And we actually get a long output on that bar as well. Right? And let's see here. Yeah, so for example, if we look at that low and go 1, 2, 3 bars back, right, there's no output there because this low is actually higher, right, than the third bar back. All right, and let's see here. So let's see, what do we need? Yeah, so we need another AND node. So this is where things kind of will be different than a lot of systems that you see built, right? So a lot of times you would just connect, the third bar and the fourth bar into the same AND node. But if we look at the chart here, let's see here. All right, let's zoom in right here. Shoot, actually that's not a good example. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's use this one over here as a better example. All right, so over here, right, first bar is engulfing, second bar is our inside bar, which we got marked with the dot. And so this is a great example where the third bar here, right, the third bar, that low did not go lower than the low. So if I look at this AND node, right, there's no output there. So if I connect the fourth bar in there, okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna need some filtering here. Yeah, because what's happening here? So I did put, the third bar and the fourth bar into the AND node, and I still have a result. Yeah, I still have a result because, this third bar solver, yeah, it's picking up every time, that we have a low lower than a low 2 bars back. So this is doing this comparison. Yeah, sorry. All right. Yeah, so this is comparing this low to actually the inside bar. Let's see. So I need to come up with some kind of elimination for that. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, so since I need 2 AND nodes here, I also, I'm going to have to eliminate the signal extender, go with my original thought, which was to use a look back node. Yeah, there we go. So let's grab that look back node. And there we go. So now there's no long output anymore, right? Because remember the arrow is on the third bar, right? Inside bar is the second bar. There's our third bar, and there's no output. Yeah, so I didn't actually need the look back node, because instead of extending the inside bar signal forward, I actually need to use a displacement. So what does a displacement do? Right? Here's the signal bar, but look, the signal, it was displaced forward onto the third bar. Right? And if we look at these others here, right? The inside bar, right? The long and short signal was displaced forward onto the third bar, right? Inside bar, signal displaced forward, right? So that means that the inside bar that was found, that signal can only be used on the third bar, right? With the signal extender, the inside bar could be used on the third bar and the fourth bar. But we want to make sure that only this third bar solver gets to use the inside bar signal. It only gets one opportunity, one bar. And so now I need another look back node, and we're going to take the inside bar signal. Let's open that up a little bit. There. So we're taking the inside bar signal, putting it into another look back node, but this time the displacement is going to be set to 2. Right? Let's look at that. Right? So now the inside bar signal here is now being shifted forward 2 bars onto the fourth bar. Right? Onto the fourth bar. Same thing over here. Right? The inside bar signal is being shifted forward onto the fourth bar. Right? This inside signal is being shifted forward onto the fourth bar. And so now I can connect that and connect that and connect that. And there we go. So over here, right? Oops. Yeah. So the third bar didn't meet the requirement, right, of going lower than the engulfing bar, but the fourth bar did. So there. And so now, so this would be basically, this would also be the third bar, you know, condition found. And this other AND node would be the fourth bar condition found, right? And now I need to combine those together with an OR node. Because as the rules say, the third or the fourth bar low, right, needs to go below. So the key word is the third bar or the fourth bar. So I need to put these into an OR node. And look at that. Right? And there we have it. So when we look at this inside bar, right, bar 3 and bar 4 have a lower low. So we get a long output on the third bar and the fourth bar. So yeah, probably should put, there we go, 2 green arrows there and 2 green arrows there, right? So this is our inside bar, and so the third bar has a lower low and the fourth bar has a lower low. So there's our outputs. All right. Let's see what else we have here. Oh yeah, there you go, another inside bar right there, and we have lower lows and a lower low, then the engulfing bar. There you go. All right, so that is rule number 2. So I can call this OR node. Rule 2. There we go. All right, now this is probably the more complex part, is finding that mother bar there. All right, so let's pull that definition up again. There we go. Yeah, looks like we need an up bar to close. I'm guessing what this is saying is it needs to close in the top third range. The top third range. It's been a while since I've done anything like this. Yeah, so actually let me ask Ranga, what does this diagonal line mean? Let me just confirm, what does that diagonal slash through the bar mean? Does that have any specific meaning there? All right, so while Ranga's answering that question, so I'm gonna, I gotta think about, BloodHound doesn't do, doesn't calculate percentages of where a bar close or something like that. If it's in the top third or the bottom 2/3 or whatnot, that requires kind of some specific math. But I think there is a way to do that. We can do something kind of similar with volume bars. All right, so I'm going to grab another comparison solver, and I'm just going to do some experimenting here. All right, so input A, that's going to be the bar price, and we want to know where the close, where the close ends up being, and I'm going to see if we can compare that to the range. I don't remember this indicator, but yeah, it looks like I have this range PT indicator that might make camera percentage. So I'm gonna have to play around with both of these indicators here. I'm not sure I can find a solution for that. So this might require a custom indicator to do that custom mathematics. Yeah, I don't think this range PT is doing anything for me. And I don't remember what its specific job was. All right, well, actually, maybe this might work. All right, I might have found a solution here. Let's see. All right, so I need to compare the close, I think, to the high. All right, so the range was not the right yeah, for input B, I didn't want the range. Yeah, the range wasn't any help. Yeah, all right. I think we have a winner, winner, chicken dinner. There we go. Man, I haven't done this in such a long time. All right, so let's break this down so that we know what's going on here. All right, so I am comparing the close of the bar, right? So if we look at our nice little screenshots, right? So we want the close of the bar. You know, this is for a long setup. So close of the bar in the top third range. Or, you know, and vice versa, you know, reversed for a short signal, we'd want the close in the lower third, right? So we're comparing, so for a long, right, so this is the image for a long, we compare the close to the high of the bar, right, to the high of the bar, right, and we're going to subtract, well, we want the close greater than, if we read the English description here, right, the close has to be greater than the high minus 1/3 ATR, right? So the ATR is roughly giving us the length of the bar, right? So this is where things are not exact, and a custom indicator would be more precise, because the ATR doesn't calculate the range of the bar, right? That's why I started off trying to use the range, you know, because we do in fact want to take the range, you know, and then find 1/3, but you know, but we can't actually use the range in this situation here. Yeah, so maybe that's something we can add further down the road here, where we can you know, in our list of measurement units, yeah, maybe at some point we could add the range as an option here, and that would be a little more precise, you know. But the ATR, you know, a 1 period ATR. So here's the caveat that gets this really close to being 100% accurate. The caveat is that the ATR, if you go into the settings menu, right, you can see you have an ATR period, you know, for the long calculation, and another ATR period for the short calculation. And you want to use a 1 period ATR. And that effectively gives you the length of the bar, right? It's, you know, it's not exact. It's not as exact as the range indicator, but it's as close as we can kind of get right now without a custom indicator. All right. So we're taking the close, and we need the close to be right above the high minus, right, 1/3 of the ATR, which is effectively giving us approximation of the range, right? So we're taking 1/3 the range of the bar and subtracting that from the high, right? So we take the high, and we get this value down here, 1/3 down, right, and make sure that the close is greater than this blue line. That's what this high minus 1/3 ATR is calculating, roughly this blue line. And then for the short, it's the opposite, right? We want the close to be, let's see, the close to be, less than, and we're taking the low and then adding that 1/3. So we take the low and then add 1/3 and come up with the 1/3 bottom, right? The 1/3 bottom. So take the low and add 1/3, and you come up right with that 1/3 up there. Okay, so with that, explanation. And so now let's look at the chart. So we can see, yeah, you know, this is a really short bar, right? So that close, you know, when you eyeball it, it kind of looks like that close could be in the top third, but, you know, it's hard to say. But in any case, you know, that calculation, using the ATR calculation, is saying that the close is not in the top third. You know, but this, right, this down bar, you know, it looks pretty clear that the close is in the bottom third. Same with this down bar, that close is in the bottom third. That close is almost like it's one tick away from the low, so that's obvious, right? Let's see, this up bar here, right? The close here is obviously in the top third. This bar here, yeah, you know, that's kind of hard to eyeball, but, you know, using the ATR, it's saying that that close is in the top third. Let's see, actually, we should make one adjustment here. So instead of just being the close greater than, it should be greater than or equals to. Yeah, or less than and equals to. There you go. So that might make a difference on a couple of bars. So, right. Yeah, so again, obviously, this up bar, the close is in the upper third. This up bar, yeah, I mean, yeah, that looks like that closes in the upper third. So, you know, when I give this the eyeball test, you know, things are looking, yeah, pretty accurate. So, again, since we're using the ATR to calculate the range, it's not 100% accurate, but it'll get us in the ballpark. So the only alternative would be to create a custom indicator, you know, that tells you, that spits out a percentage value that tells you where the close of the bar closed. You know, did the bar close, you know, 10% down from the high? Or if the indicator would tell you, you know, did the close, you know, close at the 50% of the range, you know, something like that. So custom indicator would give you more exact, but this will get us in the ballpark there. Let's see. All right. So let me see if I got an answer as to what this diagonal line here means. No. I still don't have an answer. So Ranga, let me ask this again. What does this diagonal line mean on the pin bar? So I just want to confirm that instead of trying to guess at it. Yeah, looking at this image, I'm going to assume that these need to be up bars. So what I'm going to do, actually, let's finish giving this solver a name here. All right, so we want to combine this with a bar direction solver. You know, it's kind of hard to tell if we actually really need to do that. Yeah, so far it's looking like we're only getting a long output on up bars. Yeah, so what I'm looking for is like a pin bar here. I'm looking for a pin bar like this, but, you know, in the opposite direction. So a pin bar on the top, you know, an upper pin bar that closes down. Or maybe a reverse lower pin bar that closes. Ah, there we go. Okay. That's what I'm looking for right there. So that's an up bar, but, you know, but the body is at the bottom of the bar. And it's giving us a short. So, oh, here we go. There we go. Finally, as soon as I give up, some pin bars show up. So there we go. There's a down bar, but I'm assuming that that would be a pin bar as well. So let me see if Ranga got back to me. Let's see. Ranga says yes. Okay, good. All right. So, yeah, so scanning through the chart here, actually, I don't want to use a bar direction because, right, here's a perfect example of a pin bar, but it's a down bar, right? It's a down closing bar, but it is a pin bar. And so we're getting along signal, right, along, regardless of the bar direction, right? We're still getting along because all we care about is just the close. Where is that closing price, within the upper range or lower range? And the bar direction would actually filter this down bar out. Yeah, so we don't actually want that bar direction. So let's remove that from our list. There we go. So actually, let's give this a different name here. All right, here we go. All right, so we have rule number 2, right? We did previously, and rule number 2, right? We get a result on the 3rd or 4th bar. Let's see here. We're gonna have to go back. Let's go back to where we were working. Let's get rid of the range indicator. There we go. There we go. So we need to take the output, right, from this OR node, right, which is telling us that either bar 3, right, or bar 4, went lower, right? So that was true. And then we need to take this output and we need to extend it over, right? This output now needs to be pushed over to the 5th bar, right? And if we look at our 5th bar, let's see. Well, actually, yeah, the 5th bar, that 5th bar didn't do anything. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any 5th bars that qualify, but in any case, right, we need to take the 4th and 5th bar output and then shift it over to the 5th bar, right? So again, we need another look back node, right? And so in the look back node, again, so we're using this displacement of 1. And so let's actually name this like so, right? And then, so now we have rule number 2, actually rule number 1 and 2 shifted forward onto the 5th bar here. And so now we can combine rule number 2 with rule number 3 using a AND node, like so. And that should be the final result. But first, let me go in here. And let's see, this look back node is doing a displacement of 1, right? So, it's a great idea to come up with some kind of a naming convention so that you know what these function nodes are doing for you. All right, so this look back node, it has a displacement of 2. And, oops, there we go. Let's put 2 in there. There we go. So displacement of 2. There. So now I know the difference between this look back node and this look back node by looking at the name. All right, that should do it. So let's scan through the chart now and see what we have. Oh, look at there. Okay. So inside bar. So bar number 3 and bar number 4. Oh, interesting. So yeah, I don't know how to handle this, but bar number 3, met rule number bar number 3 met the rule number 2 requirements, and then bar number 4, it met rule number 2 and it met rule number 3, and so we got a long signal a little early. But then also bar number 5 also qualified as well. So we got 2 long signals. Yep. And let's see here. We have a short. So that's our inside bar. Yep, there's bar 3, bar 4, and yeah, the 5th bar. It's kind of hard to tell, but yeah, it looks like that close could be in the lower third. Yeah, I don't see anything specific requirements of these wicks here. I mean, this does show some wicks, but doesn't really say anything specific about them. So we're just going to assume that this bar qualifies as a mother bar. So even though it has a very short wick, but it did close down. So, and let's see what else we got here. Yep, that is an inside bar. And then, yep, so bar number 4, right, made a higher high. Yep, and then we have the 5th bar, or that mother bar. So let's see what else we have. So that's our inside bar. Yep, and so bar 3 and 4 met the requirements there. But then the 4th bar is also a mother bar, and then we have a mother bar afterwards. So, all right, yeah, there we have it. So, yeah, I guess, if you wanted to add some, additional requirements, yeah, let's see here. Yeah, like, I don't have any good examples here, but well, yeah, maybe this is a good example, right? Where we have a bunch of tiny bars here, and let's see, wow, yeah, that's kind of surprising. We have some small bars this early in the morning, but we have some small bars there. So let's say, you wanted to make sure that your inside bar, has a kind of a minimum length there, right? A minimum length there. Then you could all right, let's pull this out here. There we go. So if you want to make sure, that your inside bar has a minimum length, we could add a bar length solver to this, right? And we can set a max and a minimum length. So, yeah, so maybe you want your inside bar to be a maximum of 1 ATR, but at the same time, you want it to have a minimum bar length as well. And so instead of ATRs, maybe points. Maybe you want your inside bar to be, a minimum of like 1 point or something like that, right? So, that way, you can make sure your inside bar has a minimum length or something like that. So, and I'm sorry, let me finish here. So you'd have to take this bar length and then grab a AND node, and you would have to combine them together. There we go. Right, combine those together and connect it up like that. Right. Yeah. So there you go. So that's basically, if you wanted to add some kind of secondary requirements for your inside bar, you could do something like that. You just had to have an AND node and whatever other solver, might be necessary to add that secondary condition there. So, all right, so with that, let me take a look at the board and see if there's any follow-ups on this. All right, yeah, Dean has a follow-up here. So Dean is saying, instead of the ATR, could you use the length of bar indicator? I'm not sure what the length of bar indicator is, unless you mean the range indicator. Yeah, and subtract 33% of that. So here, there we go. So here's our solver here, our 5th bar solver. So, so there's no place to put in. So the answer to your question, Dean, is no, because you would need a 3rd place to put in, right? Because you still need to compare the close to the high, right? And then subtract, whatever 33% of that bar length is. So you'd have to replace the ATR, right? This ATR is the 3rd indicator that we're taking 33% of. So, right, and you can see you can't plug in your own indicator here. So, right, this is a specific measurement unit. So, yeah, so you couldn't use a bar length indicator within input A or B, because you'd be comparing the close to the bar length, right? And the bar length is not price. You need to compare price to price. So I hope that kind of explains what's going on there. Let's see. All right, Ranga says thanks. All right, so I guess Ranga is satisfied there, got what he needed.